Welcome to the Tuesday regular city council meeting. I will have you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Weir. Here. Smock.
Here.
Clements.
Here.
Dewater.
Here.
And Morris.
Here.
Just as a friendly reminder, and we're going to continue to read the general rules before we approve the agenda. This is general rules and public participation at the Evansdale council meetings. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones, and we really appreciate that. At the chair presider's discretion, you may address an item on the current agenda by standing, and after recognition by the chair presider, state your name. We'd like you to come up to the podium and your address and a group affiliation, if there is any. You may speak one time per current agenda-related item for a maximum of 3 minutes. If there is a public hearing scheduled as part of an agenda item, the chair presider will allow everyone who wishes to address the council using the same participation guidelines. Although not required by City Code of Ordinances, oral presentation may be allowed at the chair presider, usually the mayor or the mayor pro tem, discretion. The discussion section of the agenda is your opportunity to address items not on the agenda, using the same participation guidelines found in these general rules. Keep comments germane and refrain from personal, impertinent, and slanderous remarks. All comments and remarks will be directed to the council and the mayor. At no time is it appropriate to direct remarks or comments to other audience members. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This evening, we have a hearing that was requested by Moeller Lawn Care and More LLC for a notice of violation. I'm assuming Mr. Moeller, if you'd like to step up the podium and state your case to the council, you may do that now.
Hi, my name is Spencer Moeller. I live at
You can raise that up.
I live at 4265 Lafayette Road and own Moeller Lawn Care and More. I'm here in good faith to comply with the city and explain the misunderstanding from the complaints of my neighbors, wrong inferences that have been made about what business is being conducted and the notice of violation that has been instated.
Okay.
You want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go over a summary of kind of my experience living at 4265 Lafayette.
Okay.
And then kind of what has been brought to attention by a neighbor at 125 Heather Avenue. He's in the audience, so I won't. Can I say his name or can I not say his name?
Yeah.
So I can say his name?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't disagreed with it, so.
Okay. So it was Douglas Thorne who has brought things to the city's attention and suspecting neighbors that he may or may not be teaming up with. So basically what I've heard from both the inspector and Douglas and my experience here today living here. So on March 28th, 2023 is when I purchased the property and moved in. The first day I moved to the property, Douglas showed me the example of the neighbor he would be from then until now. He announced his presence as a neighbor by coming onto my lawn and letting me know who he was. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay.
And that he didn't get along with the previous homeowners, and he was going to call the city to see how much gravel I would need for under my trailers. Because I had multiple trailers. He then let me know later that week that gravel is not needed if trailers aren't in plain sight. I thought this was very odd from a first impression, but from then on till now, he has been calling me into the city. So then another neighbor, Scott Height, he's not here, but at 4311 Lafayette Road, had a different approach. He's my next door neighbor when I moved in. He introduced himself, and so did his wife Shannon Height, and gave me their background and experience with the neighborhood over the years, and noticed I was a younger person and said he has a garage full of tools. If I ever needed them, I was free to use them. And this was after Douglas had spoke to me. So I asked Scott about him, and he did acknowledge that Douglas did not get along with the Woods family, the previous homeowners, and that Douglas may be nosy. Now that I have the notice about the meeting for this city council meeting, I asked if Scott could email me a letter about his experience with me as a neighbor over the past year. And this is from Scott. This is a statement he made. I am a neighbor to Spencer Moeller, and since he has joined the neighborhood, we have nothing but good things to say. He is courteous and keeps everything in order. He has been helpful when asked for help, and an all-around great neighbor. So then the first week of residence, I called the city to see what the burning rules were for yard waste. They stated 365 days a year, yard waste can be burned unless there's a burn ban. I was not notified that yard waste could not be brought onto the property from other properties to be burned, because I'm a commercial company and I can't use the city dump if I'm doing stuff for commerce.
That is correct.
So anyways, I brought 3 loads of brush to my property to burn, and I did not know I couldn't do that. So then that was the first call in, and then Steve let me know, hey, you can't do that. Haven't done it since then. Anyways, Steve told me the rules in detail and said that I needed to get the yard waste piles cleaned up, so I did not actually burn all those yard waste piles. I cleaned up 2 of the 3. I did burn 1 pile, and that was that first call in. And then to let Chris know, one of the higher maintenance people for the city, if I had a customer in the city, if I could dump at the dump, and I could dump my own stuff from my own property at the dump.
Correct.
So I have been following those policies. Let's see, Steve then texted me again about another report of yard waste being dumped, and it was not waste. It was mulch that I was going to be using around my property, and then 2 other piles which contain landscaping block that I'm planning to use around my property, but it was dumped in a pile, so it wasn't pretty. And then there's a pile of dirt that was gonna be used for projects. That was for commerce. Anyways, so I have since then cleaned up the block, put it on pallets, so it looks a little bit more pretty. And the mulch has since then been cleaned up as well, because I decided to not use it around my property. So that's been dumped. There were a few other complaints, just one more complaint about splitting logs for firewood, which I would consider more of a hobby, but I do sell firewood, but it's only about 1% of our revenue. So that's why I consider it more of a hobby than business. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of plead my case on why my property is significantly less than 49% used for business purposes. I would say 90% of my business is conducted outside of the property. The property is only used for storage and maintenance on my equipment, and I store a few trailers outside of my pole building, and everything else goes in. I have 4 trucks, 1 employee that drives the truck back and forth to pick up trailers and equipment only, and sometimes maintenance, and then we leave for jobs. And I have a backup, and I have my other truck that I park on my driveway. Anyways, so the main purposes are for storage and small repairs to equipment. No material deliveries are made to the property, no customers come to the property, and like I said, it's for storage and equipment maintenance only. And my solutions to rectify the problem is to remove the dirt, not bring any more dirt to the property unless used for personal use. I will notify Steve if I have to. And then I could notify Steve when I plan to split wood, and will only split wood behind my shop and not too close to Douglas's house, because I think that's what's annoyed him. But that's kind of what I have to dispute the issue. So, might have been a little more than 3 minutes, but
Yeah,
anyways, that's kind of what I have.
yeah, sorry.
And you didn't receive a citation,
Not yet.
just the notice, and
Correct.
you plan on complying,
Correct.
okay?
Like that sounds fair
And
enough.
stay in compliance, I guess, is
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
key part of it, but
Correct.
I think the biggest issue is just making it not seem like there's a business in the middle of the neighborhood,
Okay.
for your neighbors. Being a good neighbor, like your friend, your neighbor gave the email that you read, is awesome, and we all hope that we have that guy next door. But when, you know, they didn't ask for the chainsaws to come to town, it's hard for them to be okay with it.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind going forward and keep the place not looking like a tree yard, and, you know, I think that should come a long way for the neighbors.
Okay.
Steve, can I ask you a few questions as well, please, sir? So, the interactions with Mr. Moeller here.
Yep.
Yeah, you're fine up here, Ben.
Yep.
The interactions with Mr. Moeller here, anytime you've been said, have been met with, it sounds like pretty much understanding and wanting to do the right thing, or at least get it on, okay?
Yeah.
What have you founded to the specific ordinances that you have had to bring this up for him? Was it just this specific one, or has it been other ones of noise violations or anything else?
Well, originally when it first started, it's about him hauling in the materials and then burning it. So then I talked to him about the burning, and I gave him a copy of the burning complaint. Like he said, he quit doing the burning. You should have the pictures of the first complaint when I went out there to talk about what was there.
Yeah,
Then I've got another call when they said that he was running chainsaws, bringing wood from other jobs, and he was splitting all the wood, doing it, you know, pretty much throughout the entire day. And, you know, we do have an ordinance that allows people to make noise from a certain time, from 7, I think it's till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, but that's for like personal use. And he was bringing stuff in from different job sites to his residency there, and then he was splitting it, cutting it. So that was the disturbance that we were having with the neighbors, is that some of the neighbors work third shift and they try and sleep during the day. And I believe he might have been doing some of those operations closer to their properties. Now he's talking about moving everything to the back side, which should help with the noise. But we still run into the problem where you're not really supposed to generate any noise. If you read the ordinance, I'm sure you all have a
Right.
copy of it.
Right.
It basically states you're not supposed to generate any extra noise. You're not supposed to do any of that when you run a home business.
Well, and that
I
odor
don't-
is part of it too,
Yeah.
and you can't run a chainsaw without odor, and, you
Yeah,
know.
so I don't know how we justify that. I mean, I don't know how we can do that with our ordinance, and how we can tell them, okay, if you do it behind your garage, it's okay, because unfortunately, as soon as we say that, the next person that wants to do it's gonna say, well, I'm doing it behind my garage too. So I'm not sure how we can justify that to be able to help this gentleman. I mean, you can't do it in his building, because
Carbon
it wouldn't be good for him. So I'm not really sure. I mean, if he splits wood, maybe not using a chainsaw, maybe cut everything up before he brings it, and then just runs a splitter, I don't know. I can't make that decision. I have to abide by what I'm told to abide by our ordinance.
So,
I don't see a problem with running a chainsaw, I'm sorry. Or a splitter, I mean,
Well, but it's hours on end, I wouldn't want it next door to me.
I know it, but, you know, if he was cutting trees down in his own yard, there was nothing you
That'd
could
be
do.
different.
Well, that'd be a day or two.
Yeah,
You
that's
run
a
out of
lot.
trees, you know?
so with the actions that Mr. Mueller stated here tonight, it sounds like we still have more of the issue of the noise, potential excess noise pollution to
Correct.
address yet. Otherwise, any issues with his other items that he's
No,
put
he
in
brought
place?
in, right away, he brought in rock, he covered his driveway, he put all his trailers on rock. I mean, anytime I had something that I needed done by this gentleman, he took care of it.
Okay.
He got on it as soon as he could, took care of it, never gave me any concerns why he wasn't gonna do it. He just said, okay, I'll get it taken care of.
Okay.
I drove by the property today and it looked well kept up, so kudos to you for that.
We just have the situation that if he's gonna continue to be running chainsaws and running machines during the day, according to our ordinance, it says he can't, unless it's his personal use.
Yep.
Which we know it's not. So I can't answer that question.
So like I said, it's more of a hobby because it's literally like 1% of what I do. And I do have trees I do need to cut down. I don't know if you noticed all the like the weird
I
trees.
did, like, in your couple of neighbors, I saw quite a few trees that
Yeah,
were down and
so
split.
I will need to be cutting trees down, so there will be noise for that. And I was planning on using the decent sized logs for firewood. And I do have some logs behind my shop that I still need to do, but further from that, I mean, I can stop bringing logs in altogether, and that, I don't think that'll be an issue.
Okay.
Since it's such a small percentage of what I do, so.
Well, and I guess something I should have said first and foremost, thank you for coming tonight, thank you for wanting to work with the city, thank you on this. I obviously I can speak for myself, but I hope I can speak for my, other fellow council people as well, that we have to follow the ordinances. There's been issues in the past where it just wasn't, and then it was the whole question of why do we even have them? So the council
Right.
itself needs to sit behind and either enforce what we have or change it or get rid of it. So that's what's
Okay.
led it to this. But we absolutely don't want to penalize someone unnecessarily or unfairly. So bringing this up, at least from the council's perspective tonight, this is not anything targeted at you or anything. No different than the burn ban that's brought up. It was a legit concern that needed. We feel everybody should have the opportunity to be heard on either side. So thank you for coming up to yours as well, and just know that the council is trying to be fair and neutral
Yep.
on backing what we have on the books. So,
Okay.
certainly note that we're not trying to make a hardship for anybody, yourself or anyone else that might be upset about
Yep.
any excess noise pollution. So thank you for
Right.
your willingness to at least work it out, because, that makes things so much easier,
Okay.
so.
Okay. I will say one more thing. I do have multiple neighbors that do firewood, so, I didn't know if that needed to be an issue that needed to be brought up at a later time, or
As far as burning of the firewood
not
or
burning,
needing it?
making the firewood.
Oh, gotcha, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that effect, all's fair. So if
Right.
we're enforcing it with you,
Okay.
I mean, it needs to be the same rules for everybody, myself included.
Okay.
So there should be no special treatments out of, very limited exemptions that obviously have to come, for example, a windstorm or something that comes through.
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously then it's a little different, so.
There is a difference though between that though. So if you're working on your property and you have a tree go down in your property and you wanna cut that tree up for firewood, there's nothing in our code that says you can't do that. What's in our code says you can't bring material from another job onto your house and then work on that. That's what the code reads.
Yep.
So there's no problem with neighbors or any other resident in town that takes trees down from their property. And that's what I told him too. I said, if you wanna cut down the trees on your property and you wanna log that, there's nothing in our ordinance that says that I can stop you or ask you not to do it. I'm only asking you not to bring stuff from job sites to your property and then do that on your property.
Okay. And
I just wanted to clarify that, so.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
Right.
Yeah.
And since he said that, I have not brought in anything
Okay.
since then, so.
Any questions?
No.
Sandy?
Well, thank you.
Thank
We
you,
really
Steve.
appreciate you coming in and,
Yep.
virtually giving us your side of the story and,
Yep.
and being in compliance. We appreciate that more, and so does your neighbors.
Alrighty. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is public discussion. Oh.
I guess I'm the bad one. I'm Doug Thorne, I live at 125 Heather. I did call on you when it stunk real bad. When you burnt that stuff, I don't know what it was. But, I just wanted to apologize to him, but I did not call on his dirt or his rock. I just figured he was using that stuff to landscape. I know he landscapes. I have no idea who called, and it's not up to me. I did call twice. Called on the chainsaw, and I called on I smell. In fact, I come down and talk to you.
Yep, on the chainsaw you did.
And, as far as that goes, he's running a business, and I understand that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thorne. We appreciate that. And just so you know, you were not the only calls or complaints we received in the neighborhood. Item 6 is public discussion. If you'd like to address the council and myself, please come up to the podium, state your name and address.
My name's Jerry. I live in 213 Heather, and I sure like to bring this up one time on the burn ban. I'm glad you're doing your job. You know, I know he's cutting the wood and everything. People do burn wood in fireplaces and houses to keep the houses warm. I don't see nothing wrong with that because people burn wood in the house, you know. But I like to see for not burning leaves, garbage, people got burn barrels. And I know the one lady lives just south of the grocery store up here at Fairway. You go a block down, take a left, the second house, she's got one this high. And this morning I went by there and it was about, and I went there for all the signatures. And she gave her my paper, you know, and she laughed at me. She said, and I just looked over there, and there's this garbage, you know, and
Sure.
it was full of garbage boxes and everything. You know, this morning it was full of thing. The grocery store guy, people was telling me when she take groceries out, she could smell something. And sure, if she burns all this stuff, all the smoke and stuff is going to go over there, and that's why I like to be honest with everybody. You know, people burn wood, that's 100% good. If you know, if you're going to do it right. But otherwise, I'd say I agree. You know, because I went up to all these places that did wood. I mean, the leaves. I got people signed, and I could have signed another 7 more pages, but I didn't have any more. And I said, hey, I like to have the city can open the windows up, it can breathe, and now people have got oxygen and you know, all kinds of stuff. We don't need to have this. I like to see the city of Evansdale can go open the windows up and feel, you know, and then, but you know, burning this garbage and all this, and then let's say last week this guy
Yeah.
came up and you know, talking about all this. All this, he wasn't here, you know, and I said, people put it on Facebook. Like one guy came up and said his garage shed got on fire because somebody burned leaves. Well, the next time, one lady said, hey, can I burn garbage? And the next one, let me know when I can burn garbage. Well, come on, guys. I mean, you guys got to wake up. This is the 2024. you know.
Right. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jerry. We really appreciate your sticking with this, and, you know, we are working as a city. We're having meetings with department heads, you know, to, number one thing, we think that people need to be informed. We need to be informed on what they can burn and what they cannot burn. So, you know, we're moving forward with that. You'll see an article in Evansdale Elk Run News, as well as the Evansdale News that gets mailed out to everybody. So it gives everybody an opportunity to understand what's going on, understand what we've been discussing, the petition that was brought before us. So, thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
No. You had your time. Anyone else?
Scott Strader, 1515 West Gilbert. Got a couple things. I'm all in favor of new businesses coming in, but my concern is we're getting a truck wash and a car wash out in Eagles Landing, which is great. But we all know our infrastructure is not the best around here. And I don't expect you to know the gallons per minute off the top of your head that a semi-truck wash takes, but some of them will take up to 500 gallons a minute of water. And then we'll also have a car wash. Can our infrastructure handle that much volume going from the water supply and coming down the sewer? I don't know if anybody's looked into that, but I think it's worth looking into. I think we need the businesses, but we all know that if our infrastructure cannot keep up, the homeowners are gonna be the one to have to cover this expense to justify the businesses running. And I don't think that's quite fair. The other thing about public burning is, we have a yard waste dump. I use it myself. There's one way in and one way out. There's a campground there, there's a boat landing there, there's a construction site there, there's Little League, T-ball. The intersection to get there is one of the main avenues to get to and from the highway. And if we suddenly have an entire town that has to use that yard dump, it's not gonna be good. We have safety hazards with Little League, campers, emergency services if they have to get somewhere. You're gonna have a backup of cars if the city has to come in with their end loader and clear the area. It's not gonna be a good setup for one way in and one way out. I think we just need to enforce what we have for the burning as of right now. Because I have a neighbor that loves to burn grass clippings and dog feces, especially on beautiful days. But I still don't want a burn ban, even though I have to put up with that. Because there's some huge yards, and if everybody in the town, say we get a windstorm, this is hypothetical, if we get a windstorm at the T-ball tournament, what's gonna happen? It's not gonna end good. So we need to do that. And there's been a few people talk about in favor of the burn ban, which is great. But I've heard a lot of city council people give their opinion, like we need to use mulching lawnmower blades, compost. They've been grossly offended by the smells. But I also need to remind you that the elected officials aren't here for your opinions. You're here for the opinions of your constituents. So sometimes you have to put your personal feelings aside and listen to what the people that voted you into office are saying and do what they say. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else this evening? Thank you for coming this evening. No one else this evening. We'll move on with the agenda. Number 7 is approval of the consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 8, approval of the resolution calendar. I'll take a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Weir,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Clements,
Yes.
DeWater,
Yes.
and Morris.
Yes.
Number 9 is a request from Police Chief Dean to replace engine in 2019 Dodge Durango with Advanced Automotive in the amount of $9,562. I would ask the council to table this item at this time due to some additional diagnosis that's going to be done, performed by Advanced Automotive.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mayor and council reports, alls I have to say is, again, I'm going to reiterate, we're doing a public awareness as far as the burning goes. I don't know if you all realize this, but we've had a lot of illegal burning just in the past 2 weeks in the city of Evansdale. Garbage, we actually issued a citation somewhere on Lafayette, not to mention anybody's address, and they had 2 trailers pulled up in their driveway, and it had an open fire, and we're just burning junk. Just, So that is a big deal right now. We have heard you folks about this, and we are all taken into consideration. We're not here to limit what we already have as a privilege, but we really need to get it under control. So we're doing some awareness of talking with staff, and we'll start doing awareness of the public that are illegal burning, because I think that's 99% of our issue at this point.
Scott Strader, 1515 West Gilbert. And yes, there's a lot of illegal burning that goes on, which is where we need to enforce what we have for rules now. Because if we make more rules, the same people that are violating these rules are going to violate those rules. Because anything they burn before they get caught is something they don't have to deal with. They're gonna do it regardless of any rule that's out there. So don't punish the many for the few.
Understood.
Well, I think it's important to point out, though, that Jerry brought a petition with hundreds of names supporting a ban. So they have a voice as well. So it's not just people who don't support the ban have a voice. That's important to keep in mind.
I agree. So we
Yeah.
have a town of 4,700 people. And this gentleman wants the burn ban, which is great. That's his opinion, but I don't see anybody else coming down here saying we need a burn ban. A lot of people have
He
come
brought in
Yeah.
a petition.
We're not going to do the back and forth. If you want to come back up here, Scott.
Okay. Elaine Hammer, 728 Second Avenue. My thing on the burn is, number one, what happens if they do get a citation? Do they get a fine? So what happens, is it a small little fine, or is it pretty good sized?
150 to 750 up to discretion.
Okay, because when
Up to 1,000.
Oh, that
Yeah.
one, I'm sorry, went up.
Yep.
Because when I first lived here, which was many years ago, but there was a big deal about animals back then, and I had a barking dog violation. And the first one was $50, the second one was $100, and the third one was $150, just because of one neighbor. So that was significant back then for me, so I'm just hoping they get a pretty good fine if they're burning illegally. That's all I care about.
And I'm just going to reiterate, the time for this is during discussion, not during mayor and council reports.
You kind of brought it up, that's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
my problem with the burn ban is not so much the burn ban itself, but even if we're allowed to burn like we're not supposed to now, I want to know how you're going to start a fire in your burn barrel when you're burning small twigs and leaves, and not so much leaves, but brush in the yard that blows out of the trees. I got oak trees every time we get a wind, and that's almost every day. There's a half a dozen pieces, and I throw them in thing. It's easy to start with a little bit of cardboard, but they say you can't burn cardboard, so I'm gonna make a suggestion on how we're gonna start that fire legally.
Gotta rub
I
two
mean, you
sticks
can't
together,
pour
John.
oil on it and start it.
Well,
Gotta take them two sticks.
Yeah, rub them together.
there are a lot of good fire starting options out there, John.
Yep.
Really.
There are.
Let's
I've
move
got like
on.
4 or 5 different kinds of my house.
Well, you let me know.
I will.
Because I gotta start them somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Well, I think it's important to point out that we're talking about a ban, but we're also seriously looking at some kind of compromise. I mean, we have people on both sides. We don't need any more division.
Yeah, you're gonna have half the town mad at you.
How can we,
Regardless of what you do.
how can we reach a agreeable compromise to everybody? That's what we're working on at this
Right.
point.
Yep.
For now, hold your neighbors accountable and
Yeah.
everybody be good.
Leanne Davis, 268 Weema. I know I'm not here very often, but talking towards in favor of the burn ban, my mom had lung problems towards the end of her life, and she couldn't tolerate the smoke and stuff either. But she also understood that people needed to eliminate their yard waste. She shut her darn windows and didn't, really she didn't like it, but she knew that it was something that needed to be done. And you suggest that we can take the stuff to the city,
Yard Waste Center.
yard waste place. But there's a lot of us who don't have trucks and the capability to do that. And I don't think that there's a plethora of people out there burning left and right, are there? I mean, the way that it goes
Yeah.
down, it sounds like half the city is burning, most days. And I get where you're coming from. We've got to find an even balance, but I really hate to see a straight across burn ban also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate on the whole thing, and again, there'll be plenty of time, so this is not a done deal. No,
And-
you're fine, you're fine. This was obviously a little different for tonight, but just in the mayor council reports piece, since we're kind of on that topic, this was something that was not on the council's agenda, on our radar, on the mayor's to-do list or anything. This came up because our citizens at all, ever,
Oh,
This was never anything that we had on our radar, and I'm gonna be very blunt. And this means no disrespect to the gentleman that had the concern and went out and spent his time and his energy to bring the concern forward and share the voice of others. But I can tell you right now, this is not the biggest problem that this city is looking at dealing with right now. But it is 100% the most emotional issue that this city is dealing with right now. So, understand that I was the one that said, put this on the agenda, because I also am on social media, I also know what certain people say in the community, that the city isn't gonna listen to us, they're just gonna do whatever they want anyways. Well, you know what? I don't like that. And everyone, whether you agree with them or not, at least should have the opportunity to be heard, and here we are.
Right.
Nothing may change. A lot of things could change, but we as a council have acknowledged that you have been heard, that others have been heard, that others are allowed the opportunity to be heard. So I just want to clarify that again, because I've seen a lot of stuff out there that has been inaccurate. The council never had this as a to-do. The mayor never had this as an item on their agenda, and it was me that brought it up, working with the mayor and fellow council to say, hey, they brought in a petition, it had over 100 signatures. I feel I would not be doing my office the due diligence of where I sit to just go, hey, thanks for bringing this in. It's not important to me. I'm not even gonna look at it. I just couldn't do with that, whether I agreed with it or not. So that was my final say. Sorry, I jumped on my podium for a second.
Well, let me just say, Justin, it's been on my agenda.
Your agenda.
For 20-some years,
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Well, and thank you for the clarification. From my standpoint, it was not. I was good just kind of sneaking
Yeah.
down the road without it, but I wanted to be fair, and here we are.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
We have one more gentleman that wants to speak.
He's already spoke on that subject for 3 minutes, and that's the limit.
Yep, and again,
And it's not even on the agenda. It's not gonna be on the agenda until we do some due diligence on our side.
yep. Just real quick, I wanted to make sure no one else had anything, because I had one other thing, different
Oh,
topic.
go ahead.
So.
I'm sorry.
No, and it's very early in the phases, but something we were just talking with the mayor,
Yes.
just to bring awareness, because we're trying to get advertising out as soon as possible. July 26th and 27th, should be a Friday and a Saturday. Obviously, the past couple years, we've done like Evansdale Good Old Days, Community Days on September, just to kind of shift it. This year is the 75th anniversary of the founding of the fire department. And the Fire Department Association has come up on the date of July 27th was the founding, 75 years ago. So the association has brought up that they're doing a fireman's dance and things that day as well. We're still very early, but putting it together very quickly. I just wanted to throw some dates out there that Friday and that Saturday, it'll be Friday night, obviously work and stuff, Friday night some activities, and then all day Saturday into the evening with a kind of a town celebration type of thing down at the CRC. So just throwing that out there so that people have at least heard it once. And I'll keep bringing it up every time, so we at least hear it 7 times.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yes,
and it'll
yes,
be,
exactly.
of course, it'll be posted on social media as soon as we get flyers. Now that he brought that up, the Gallagher Blue Dorn had approached our Parks Department, so I'll put a plug in for them. They had asked to do a block party here in the city of Evansdale. So with the July event, and this is gonna be on May 31st, we've already got the group, Nevertheless, and it'll be kind of like it's gonna be at Angels Park. We'll have transportation back and forth from like the CRC down there. It's gonna be kind of like a BOB, bring your own beverage. And it's gonna, we'll have food vendors and such like that. And the Gallagher Blue Dorm will be supplying children's games and stuff like that. So that's May 31st. Also the first day of our community garage sales.
That's Friday, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Now that's all I have.
Okay, I'll
So
take a motion to
There won't be
adjourn.
good old days.
No, so, yeah, in turn, we will not have our scheduled good old Evansdale days in September.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?